Hi, I'm Catherine from the Port Orange Regional Library, and I'm here with Tim Baker, who's a local author that resides in Flagler Beach, Florida. He's written more than 15, 16 books now.
12 novels and 3 or 4 other novellas, short story collections.
More than a dozen.
That's fair.
And mostly in the mystery and crime genre with a little bit of supernatural and a little bit of tiki humor. Most of his books do take place in the Flagler, St. Augustine area, so a lot of us locals here will recognize a lot of these locations. One of his books, called Unfinished Business, is currently being filmed as a TV pilot, and we're going to talk about that more later in probably part 2 of our interview. But I can truly say, after reading 2 of his books, he's one of the best self-published authors I've ever read. And I am really excited to have you here today.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
So tell me, what first took you to pick up pen and pencil?
This story, I love this story, although I'm sure people get sick of hearing it. I had a dream. When I first moved to Florida in 2006, I had a job, and I had 2 brothers and a sister that were here. Other than that, I didn't know anybody, I had no friends, I had no social life. So it was pretty much go to work, come home, watch TV, go to bed, get up, go to work, that kind of thing. One night I had a really strange dream about 2 friends from Rhode Island, which is where I'm from. And the next day, while I was at work, all day long, I just kept thinking about this dream and how bizarre it was. And I tried to figure out the motivating story for the dream. And that night when I got home, since I had nothing else to do, I sat down at my computer and I just started writing this story. And that eventually became my first novel, called Living the Dream. And once I finished that, I never really planned on becoming a writer. I just wanted to write that story because I wanted to know what it was.
Right.
And once I finished it, I just was hooked. I couldn't stop.
Well, how did you take it from being on your typewriter or computer to actually getting published?
That was for the first book, it was a very long process because like I said, I started in April of '07. The book wasn't released until August of '09 because of that journey. Once the manuscript was finished, I still didn't know if it was worthy of being published or not. I let a few people read it, and they all said, yeah, it's worth it, you should do it. So I started investigating the whole publishing thing, everything, traditional publishing, self-publishing, and I found, first of all, that the traditional route was just, the odds were so astronomically against me. I said, no, I'm just going to, there was this new thing out called self-publishing, and I investigated that. I found a company that, you pay them money and they release your book for you. So I did that. For the first book I did. The second book was very similar to that. Again, I found a publishing house that would publish it. Less money, but still the same thing. And then by the third or fourth book, I said, I can do this. So I bought a block of ISBN numbers, and I started my own publishing company, and my books are all truly self-published. They're published under my brand, Blind Dog Books.
Wonderful. And if someone wanted to purchase one of your books, other than coming to the library to read them, how can they get a copy?
All my books are available on Amazon.
Okay.
And I always tell people you can just search Tim Baker on Amazon, but believe it or not, there are several authors named Tim Baker out there. One of them is a surfer guy from California. One of them writes religious books, but
there's an Australian too.
And there's an Australian guy too. Yes. But if you search Tim Baker and look for this book, and then you'll find the rest of them.
From there. Your characters that are in the book. I know a lot of it takes place, it's the books I read, and I have a feeling that most of the books take place in Flagler Beach.
Yes.
And the Golden Lion restaurant features prominently. One of my favorites, by the way. If you haven't been, you need to go.
Mine too.
The character that owns the Golden Lion in the books is nothing like the real people.
No, he's not.
Thank goodness. How did you develop that character? Why did you decide the Golden Lion, #1, and to change it up with this bookie in a wheelchair?
Okay, there's several answers to that. The reason that I picked the Golden Lion, which didn't happen till the second book, my second book, originally in the books, Ralph Donabedian, the wheelchair bookie, he owned a restaurant called Sand Fleas, which is in my first book. In the second book, my publicist at the time wanted to have a big book release party. And she said, is there a local restaurant that you like that we could have this release party at? And I said, well, there's the Golden Lion. I love the Golden Lion. So she set up a meeting between me and Tony, who owns the Golden Lion, and I asked them if they would be interested in hosting this party, and they loved it. They loved the idea. So partly because I love the Golden Lion, and partly because of their generosity, they provided food, they provided wine. I went into the book and I changed the restaurant from Sand Fleas to the Golden Lion. So that's how the Golden Lion came into the story. Now, as far as Ralph, my father was a bookie. I'm not going to say I'm proud of that, but it is what it is. And he wasn't in a wheelchair, but for some reason, Brewski and his girlfriend Dee Dee in the first book, when they're introduced in the first book, they're having an argument, which is pretty much all they did. And they were arguing about Ralph, and Dee Dee made a comment of, if Ralph doesn't knock it off, I'm going to tie him to his wheelchair and throw him in the ocean. And that's literally how it came about. I don't know if it was a subconscious thing or what. It did. And then, of course, Ralph being in a wheelchair, he needed some muscle, so
there you go.
That was how Ike came about.
Now, Ike and Brewski are characters I absolutely love. I see these recurring characters. They deserve a TV series of their own.
I think so too.
They're great characters and great everything. Now, are you writing any other books right now? Or are you carrying on this?
I am working on novel number 13 at the moment. I mean, I haven't put any honest work into it in the last 2 months because of the whole TV show thing, but it's in the rough draft phase at the moment.
Okay, so do you still plan to continue to self-publish, or now that you're getting a little more popular and a little more widespread?
I think so.
Yeah?
I mean, I'm happy with the self-publishing route because it allows me, and something else I've learned with the TV show, I really like having creative control. And from what I understand, if you are published traditionally, you give up at least a portion of that control. Even, book cover design, they may tell you that they want the book to be longer, shorter, change this, and I don't like that. I mean, I'm not saying that my books are perfect by any stretch, but they are what I want them to be, and they do okay. So people like them, I'm guessing.
Good. What advice would you have for someone that wanted to maybe look at publishing their first book? Would you have them read books about self-publishing like you did to learn?
I bought a book before my first book was published. I bought a book called The Fine Print of Self-Publishing. It's written by a man named Mark Levine, and that book was outstanding. I can never say enough good things about that book. It guided me through the process from start to finish. And he's a lawyer, so he examined everything from a legal aspect, as protecting the author. He examined the contracts of all the individual publishing companies. He explained how you needed to go about submitting the work to them, what you needed to do, what you should avoid doing. He rated the top 20 self-publishing companies. It was just a fantastic book. And if you're thinking about self-publishing a book, I highly recommend that book.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I think all of us have an unfinished novel.
That's what they
in
say.
our heads.
It's true.
Or an unfinished cookbook in my case, but.
There's an author named Toni Morrison. One of my favorite quotes by her is, if there's a book that you would like to read but it doesn't exist, you have to write it.
To write it. That's a great quote.
It is.
Well, I hope that you've inspired some of our budding authors out there. Again, I highly recommend Tim's books, whether it's Unfinished Business, which is going to be a TV series, we hope, or some of his others. I just read Doomed to Repeat, and I love it. If you like Clive Cussler, sort of a little Clive Cussler-esque is how I thought of this book.
I've been told that.
So, and I can't wait to read more. And don't forget, you can get some of these at the library, or go to Amazon or Tim's site, and I'll have that display at the bottom of the screen.
That helps because of the spelling.
Yeah, you can go to Tim's site and check out the rest of his books there. Thank you very much.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
And that will conclude part 1.